So we started with functions yesterday, right?
Yes.
And we saw why do we need functions and how to create functions, def keyword and what are arguments with an indentation and a colon. And we saw a function is called only when, a function is executed only when we call it, and it can be called a number of times depending on when it is required. Then we saw how to create functions without and with argument, right? And if it has argument, we have to pass those many number of arguments while calling the function. Then we saw how to put a document or docstring or any kind of comment, basically for the understanding of what my function do, right? And then we saw return statement to return any value from the function. We use return. If there is no return, it returns none, right? Then we saw how we can return multiple values in a single return statement, and how we can it can be captured as a tuple, right? Or we can do unpacking, and each variable will have each of the values that is returned by the function, right? And yeah, that's where we stopped. So any questions before we start today?
What is from key function?
Let's take it for the doubt session. All right, so let's continue from where we stopped. So let's create a function called, let's say fun1 takes a variable var or an argument var, okay, and the result equal to, let's say some var plus 10 multiplied by 12 or whatever, right? And then we return result. Okay. Then we write result 1 equal to minus 12 and minus 10, and result 1. So can we declare a function like this? Can we define or create a function like this? Looks good.
Yes.
So we do this, and let's say we call this function fun1 with the value of, let's say, 100. Okay, so what will happen? Okay, let's do one thing. Out equal to this I do. Okay, so when I execute this line, what will happen? Step by step, can anybody tell?
It will return result and then print result.
No, step by step, please.
Function 1 will be called and variable will be assigned value 100.
So where will get
1.
100?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then result equals to 100 plus 10 into 12.
Some value will come, right?
Yes.
So 110 multiplied by 12. 12, 120,
1440.
1320.
The lines after return will not execute. Huh?
Sorry?
Return.
The lines after return statement 4 and 5.
Why?
Because it will return from the function, right?
Okay. So you're saying that after, so result has 1320, then line number 3 will get executed. Result value will be returned, right?
Yeah.
And what and where it will assign to? It will get assigned to out. So out will get whatever is returned, 1320. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then
that's it.
Which 4 and
That's
5.
it.
Yes.
What about 4 and 5?
It will
The
not be executed.
lines will not be.
Why?
It's inaccessible
written,
to the
right?
compiler.
It's written, right? What's wrong here?
But the
But it
control will
won't be
go back
accessed
to-
by the compiler
Why?
because
control will go back to
the compiler will be at the out. I mean, out equals to 1320, and then next line will be.
You should say interpreter. Okay.
Yes.
But yeah. So the control will, whenever there is a return statement, I said that return will return the value to the function call, right? Whenever there is a return, the control of the program goes back to the function call. After it gets returned, the next line will be executed, whatever it is there. Right? It will not get 4 and 5 line will not be executed because it is return will make the control go out of the function. And if anything is written after return will never ever be executed. Clear? See, this print has not been executed. Why? Because it came out. Right? So 1320 got into out. We are printing the value of out. That's okay. But this statement is not executed. If it would have been executed, this print result one would have been there, right? Which is not. Here, didn't get you.
Yeah, please explain again.
Okay, you tell me the flow. When I call fun1 with 100, what happens?
Yeah,
100 goes to where?
Yes,
Function gets called.
called.
Where gets 100? Results becomes whatever value 1320.
Yes.
Right? And then what's the next line? Return 100. Return result. So whatever the value of result will be returned. Where it will get returned? What does return do? What does return do? Return returns the value to the function call. Wherever the function call is there, it will go.
Okay,
and give the value.
Okay.
There is a function call. Function call is here. Right?
So it goes back to function 100.
Function call.
Right.
Right? Assigns the value to out. And if there is another statement after that, it will execute the next line of statements. These two 4 and 5 lines will never be executed. Return goes out of the function. Return makes the control go out of the function.
Okay, got it.
Yep. Clear, everyone?
Hello, sir.
Yep.
What if we don't return? Means we don't write out equals to. We just write fun100. Then
Nothing will happen. The value will not get printed. That's all.
in that case also.
In this, no, this also, yes, obviously that has nothing to do with here, whatever we are doing. This also is a function call, right?
Yes.
If you don't write anything, let's say we're writing 90, right? Then also it's the flow will not change, right?
Yes.
Doesn't matter if we assign it to a output variable or not. Doesn't matter. Function will remain the same. The behavior, right? Return will return from there. It does not depend on the variable. It depends on the function call. This is the function call. This is the function call.
Yes.
Getting it?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Any questions?
Manish, then how it will work in if condition thing?
If you take this condition, this guy, right?
Yes.
It will work perfectly fine because at a single value of n, either this will be called, this will be called. There's no problem here. Is there a problem here? Either this is true or this is false. If this is true, it will be called. If it is false, it will be called. Only one is getting called. If you write anything after this, that will never be called.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
My point here is, should not write anything after return. That will never be executed. Let's create another function. Yes, please.
Yeah, in cell number 51, in third line, you return return result, right? Yeah. After that, I just given one condition. If result is greater than 1000, Then
it will not,
go to
it will
result
not,
one for
it will never execute any line. You write whatever you want, it will never go to that line number 4 ever.
Okay, ever it will.
Returns means it will return back to the function call. Whatever you write. If you write
Okay.
if condition before it, you might change the control. That is okay, right? That's fine. But after return statement getting executed, you write anything, it will never get executed. Return, as the name suggests, is returns from the function with a value or more than one value, right? So if you want to put both the functions return, if you want to print this as well, what do you want to do? You will do this, right? You will write it above return, right? This 1000 is this guy, print result 1, and 1320 is result, right? 1080. Clear? All right. So I'm defining a function.
To the variable then.
Sorry.
If we assign fun call to the variable, then how will it work?
How will it work? What will go to that variable?
1320. And
then what's the question?
Can you do that for once?
What is the question? You know it actually. Then why are you asking? Okay, just kidding. Yeah,
No,
I'll do it.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
So where equal to fun1 of 100. What is the value which is getting returned? 1320.
Yeah.
Okay. That is in where? That goes to where? And what 1080 gets printed? Why? Because of the print statement. That's not getting returned. That's printed. So it gets printed in the output. And 1320 will be in where? You can verify that by printing where.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Okay. This will only work. This 1320 will be printed here only because it's Jupyter notebook. If you do it in any other IDE, in a file.py file, this guy will never be printed. Okay. Only whatever is printing using print will be printed. If you return any value, that won't be printed by simply a call. You have to use print every time in a Python program. It gets printed in the Jupyter notebook because that's the functionality of Jupyter notebook.
Yeah.
If you do where, it works here. It will not work in your Python program in .py file. You have to print where. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Going back. So can I do this? Simple.
Yes.
Takes two values A and B and returns the sum of A and B, right? So if I do result equal to add 10,20, okay. For convenience, I'll not do this because again I have to print result and all those things. So I'll get 30. Yes or no? 10 goes to A, 20 goes to B, right? A plus B is 30. That is getting returned, and we can store it in a variable and print it. That's how it will work. Any questions here? Will this work?
No.
What will happen?
There will be an error.
Which line?
61 mein line number 2.
Right. Because Python has no restriction of passing the variables of any data type. Right? So why it will fail here is because we are trying to add two integers. Sorry, we're trying to add one integer with a string. So 100 will go to A, high will go to B, and we're trying to do 100 plus high, which is a string, which is a not supported operation, right? It will give you type error, unsupported operand for plus int and string. Clear? So we have seen how to make sure it is int integer is instance we can use, right? Can we do this?
Yes.
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 What will happen?
Concatenation.
Concatenation. Right? So if the operation is supported, it will work, otherwise it will not work. Same way how it works normally. Inside the function also, all the properties remain the same, right? It is just a block of Python programs written separately inside a function, but the behaviors will be same, right? And by default, the arguments can be passed with any data type, any combination, doesn't matter. As programmers or users of Python, we should be able to take care of it. We should actually take care of it according to our logic. Clear? But okay, I'll show you something. There is something called annotations. Okay, annotations. So there's one more way to tell the user that you have to pass integer, and something like this also works, I think. No, I'm forgetting how to write the return statement. Python. Ah, okay, inside it. Okay, so now do add 20 plus 30. Do a help of add. Now you will know that it takes as an integer, B it takes an integer, and it returns an integer. Right? Again, it is not restricting. Again, it is failing at line number 4 only. Here, return line only, it is failing. If it was restricting, it would have failed here. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So it is not failing here. It is just an indication to annotate. Okay. It's not a hard rule that restricts your argument to be of a specific data type. It does not. And if you do this, it still works. Okay. But by seeing the definition, this function has been written in the intention of that it takes two arguments, both it takes integer and returns an integer. Clear? This is the way we write the annotation. Got it? Okay. Will this work?
No, error.
Why?
Two arguments should be there, no?
Two arguments should be there. The function accepts two arguments.
Yeah.
Add missing one required argument B. We pass the value for A, but for B, we did not pass a value, so it gives an error. Will this work?
No, again.
Sorry,
Only two should be there.
the two should be there. Takes two positional arguments, but three were given. What is this positional argument? It means this only. When we do 100, 200, what is the position of 100?
Yeah.
First position. You can say first
Yes.
position.
Yes.
This second position, right?
Yeah.
This also
Yes.
first position, second position. So the first position value goes to the first argument. Second position value goes to the second position argument. So when the values are getting assigned using its position, those are called positional arguments. Okay. Here we have been seeing that only till now, isn't it?
Yes.
There are other arguments as well. We'll see. Okay. But we are here we understand that these are called positional arguments. One. Number two, that how many arguments the function takes, those many arguments values we have to provide, so that all the values goes to each of the arguments. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Now we can provide default values to the arguments as well. What do you mean by default arguments values?
If we
And then
don't give any argument, then what will be the value of?
Sorry, can you please come again?
If we don't give any argument, then
Yeah.
what will be the value of argument? Yeah.
Correct. So while calling the function, if the user does not give any value to any of the default arguments, then the default value will be taken. And as the creator of the function, we have to tell that it's a default argument and we have to provide the value. For example, I'm making b as default argument with the value 10. This is the way we do. Okay. Here, b is a default argument. Means it has a default value, hence it is a default argument. How it works is, it works perfectly fine. And when we give 20, just 20, this 20 will go to A. That because A is a positional argument, right? With no value, it has to be given because there is no default value for A. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
But B becomes an optional argument. When you make any argument as default, it becomes an optional argument because if you don't provide, it takes the default value, which is 10. 20 plus 10 is 30. If the question is, what if we give the default value? Sorry, what if we give the value to the argument B?
B equal 30.
The value will be overwritten.
Yeah.
The value which we give overwrites the default value. So B will be 30. Clear?
Yes.
But here also the restriction is we have to give at least one value for A and match two values only. At least one, match two, right? The flexibility comes into picture. Okay. Why no?
What if we give 3 arguments, then is it necessary to put one value? No, in function also we apply 3 arguments.
Then it's fine. If the third depends on what the third argument is. If the third argument is a default argument, then only one is okay.
It means we give n number of argument, then we can make n number of arguments default. We can assign default value.
You can assign, you can make all the arguments as default, then you don't have to
Yes.
pass anything. But you cannot, may not pass. Depends on, if you don't pass, the default value will be taken. If you pass, the value will be overwritten.
Yes. Okay.
Here we have not made A as a default argument, but we can.
Yes.
Any questions here? Anyone? Now let's say def add 3 numbers. Okay. A, B, C. And before this, okay, alt B. I make these two as default. Okay. So can we pass like this? Can we call the function like this?
No. Error.
No.
Error. At least one positional argument, missing one
Reserve.
required positional argument A. When it is a positional argument, it becomes a required argument, right?
Yes.
So we can give here 5. When we give 5, will it work?
Yes.
Yes.
5 plus 10 plus 20. Now, if we give 5 comma, let's say 6, what will happen?
B will be 6. A
B will be 6, A will be 5, C will be default 20.
20.
31. All right.
Yes.
Now, if I give 5, 6, and 7, so B will be, sorry, A will be 5, B will be 6, C will be 7.
Yes.
All the values will be overwritten. No default values will be used.
Yes.
So this is clear.
So,
Now, my
yeah.
question is, before you ask, if I want to use the default value of B and pass the value to C, how can we do?
Sorry.
I thought this was your question.
Yes.
If you want to pass the default value, what did we do here? 5 and 6 when we pass, 5 goes to A, 6 goes to B.
Yes.
It is a default argument, but it's still with using positions, right?
Yes.
They
Yes.
go via positions only. So what if I want to give the value to A, which is mandatory, and I don't want to give the value to for B. I want to use the default value of B and want to give the value to C explicitly while calling. How will you do?
Just put comma
C
and
is
then
equal
comma.
to, no,
Means
C is equal to the value which we have to pass and call the function.
While calling,
Yeah, while
can
calling.
we do that?
Yes, I think
No.
like 10 comma C is equal to 10.
Okay. So let's say, for example, what you're saying is 5,
Comma.
then comma, I give comma. So 5 will go to A, right?
Yes, yes.
I don't want the value to go to B.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that's we have to keep in mind. I have to give the value to C. If I give the value 6 here, or let's say 200 here, 200 will go to B, right?
Yes, so C is
Yes.
equal to 200.
You're saying C equal to 200.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
yeah, just put another comma after 5 and just write 200.
Yes. Perfect. It will give you error. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other?
I think we cannot do that.
You cannot do that, right?
We cannot do that.
I
We need
think
to
we
adjust
can.
our Dorian definition. We need to adjust all those.
Yeah. But that's a restriction, right? Isn't it?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. So, Lalita, you said right. This
Yes.
it works fine. Okay.
Okay.
This is called keyword argument. Using the argument value, sorry, using the argument name, that keyword, we assign the value. So when I do this, 5 goes to A, 200 goes to C, and B takes the default value. Clear?
Yes.
Now, which means is, you can give this as well.
Yes.
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 No problem. Same
Yeah.
thing we'll get. Which means is, you can give this as well.
Yes.
Because now we are explicitly telling assign 200 to C and 100 to A. Now, these are not positional arguments, these are keyword arguments. Okay.
Yes.
So keyword arguments, the way we call them using the argument name, if we call them, okay, in the function call, if we assign the value using the argument name or the variable name of the argument, those are called keyword arguments. If you don't use the name, we pass it using the position, then those are positional argument. And in the definition, if we have any default value to any of the variable, that variable or that argument becomes the default argument or the optional argument. Clear? Any questions here? No questions? Perfectly clear. All right. Now, so the definition was here of the function. I wanted to give A as a positional and B and C as, so this we can keep, this A can we tell as non-default argument? Can we say non-default argument?
Yes.
Yes.
These are default arguments. Now I wanted A and C to be default. Sorry, A and C to be non-default and only B to be default. Okay. So I do this. Okay. This you can't do. What is the error? It's a syntax error. What does the error say? Non-default argument follows default argument. What does it mean? C is defined after B. You getting it?
Yes.
Non-default argument should not be defined after a default argument. Did we learn that? Yes or no?
Yes.
How to fix this? How to fix this?
Take C first.
B,
Before
comma, A,
before.
comma, C, like that.
Give a default value to C.
Change the order.
I don't want a default value for C.
B equal 10, comma, A,
Change
comma,
the
C.
position.
Yeah.
No, you're telling the reverse. B equal to 10 cannot, I said non-default argument should not be defined after default argument. Non-default argument should not be after, C should not be after B. You're saying the reverse. So C has to come here, right?
Yes.
This works. Now, if I pass 5 and 6, 5 will go to A, 6 will go to C, B will have 10, right? And now we know that we can do whatever we want. We can do C equal to 200, A equal to 250, B equal to 100. So according to the keyword arguments, C will get 200, A will get 250, B will get 100, irrespective of the position they are. So this is safest. Can we say this is very safe?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Any questions till now? Default argument, positional arguments, and keyword arguments. Yes, no? Okay. Now, how many minimum number of values do we need to pass in line number 90 for the function defined in line number 92? For this guy, what is the minimum number of values required?
2.
2.
Is there any maximum value?
Maximum 3.
3. Right. We have a little flexibility here. If you define all the 3 here as default arguments, we don't have to pass anything. But again, we have a limit of 3.
Yes.
Max 3 we
Yes.
can go.
Yes.
Right. Cool. Now, let's say we need something like I define a function for my user. User can use that function by passing any number of argument. Okay. Any number of argument does not matter. My function should work.
It means if he enters
If
n
I
number of value, then it should be sum of
n
return
values,
sum of those values.
n values. If I enter 4 values, it should give sum of 4 values. If I pass with 5 values, sum of 5 values, 0 value, sum of that 0 value, which is 0, right? So it should work for 100 values. If I pass, it should give the sum of 100 values. So it is just for not for adding. Any kind of function should accept any number of arguments. So basically something like, can we say variable length argument?
Yes.
So this is actually possible. Okay. Anybody, any idea how?
I think some special keywords should be there.
Yeah, something extra we have to do, because
Yeah.
in this way, however we have seen till now, it will not work. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Star args. Okay. This will accept 0 or more arguments of variable length. Okay, you pass 1, pass 0, you pass 3, you pass 4, it works. There's no error. So I'll just not write anything right now. I'll just use pass to make it syntactically correct with an empty implementation of this function. But still we can call it. So if I call it with 0 arguments, it should work. If I call it with 1 argument, it should work. If I call it with 2 arguments, it should work. If I call it with 4 arguments, it should work. If I call it with,
but here we can't give default values.
No, it will work. No error means it's working.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously you can't give default values. Any questions? I want to know more about it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But any questions? Before you ask a question,
to use these arguments, because
Hmm.
writing arguments is not going to help anything.
Sorry?
Like we have written 10 arguments, but we don't know how to add,
them.
subtract, or whatever you
Yeah.
how to use.
No, first before we know how to add and subtract, we should know what and how it is getting stored, right? If we know how it is getting stored, which data type it is, then we can add, subtract.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So can we do this to check
Yeah.
what this
Yes.
args is and what the type of this args is?
It should be args only.
We should use not star args only. Okay.
Yeah.
Can anybody tell me what should be this args data type?
Args type, just like range.
Args type. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? There's no wrong answer.
If it is a list, we can iterate and add the thing.
If it's a list, simply we can iterate and add, or use sum function. There's a function called sum. Directly you can use.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Tuple type.
Tuple also it can be there, right? What do you think? It should be a list or a tuple? What is the feeling?
Tuple.
Tuple.
Why?
By default, things are tuple in Python.
No, not like that. You can't say like that. But yeah.
10, 20, comma.
By
it will
default,
Yeah, if you see this, the highlighted one, it seems to be like a tuple, right?
Yes.
Yes. It's a tuple. So whatever we pass as n number of arguments here, it gets stored in a variable called args as a tuple. The star is allowing us to pass variable length argument. It's not doing anything else. It helps us to kind of take these variables, assign it to args as a tuple. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if we don't pass anything, what happens?
Empty
We
tuple.
will take empty tuple.
Empty tuple, right? With no arguments. Sorry, with no values. Clear?
Yes.
Yes. Second thing, working?
Yes.
Working? Okay. Making sense?
Yes.
All right. Now, if you want to do something else also, you can do. If you want to fetch, like for example, if you want to not sum it, right? You want to do something else. Let's say we have a function called def and func1. Before, okay, yeah, one more thing. This args is not a keyword. Okay. After star, you can use any variable length.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we apply star, it becomes
Yes.
that type of data.
Correct. It becomes it allows us to take multiple length argument. That's what star does, and converts this variable into a tuple. Right? This variable args is not something, a keyword. Here, the main hero or the main, whatever villain is args, right? Sorry, star, and any arbitrary variable name can be used after star. Okay, but it is a convention to use args, right? It's a convention or recommendation to use args so that other people, by seeing the variable, they understand, okay, what's happening.
Yeah, it indicates arguments for.
Yeah, that's logical sense, right? We tend to write arguments, variable names as and why we need them, right? If you want to store a name, we use the variable name as name, right? So similar to that, it args, this guy stores arguments, multiple length arguments, so we use args. All right, that's the logic. So let's say I do this. Now there is no restriction, right? Whatever the values I can pass. So I can pass like this, John, comma 32, comma. Right. So now to access John, now the logic is here. The first value you pass is a name, second value you pass is an age, third value you pass is a phone number, right? So how do we use it here? Can we do name equal to var of 0,
Yes.
age equals to var of 1, and phone number equals to var of 2? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
And print f John, sorry, why am I writing like this? Name is age years old. So func1 mark 24. Right? You may or may not pass this. If you want only 2, you just pass 2. But this is your logic. Right? So this also we can do. Since we know it's a tuple, we can use indexing to get the elements. Right? If again the logic is variable length arguments, then use a for loop. You can also use for loop if there are multiple arguments, right? Depends on the logic. Making sense?
Sir, inside that function definition, right? Var underscore var of 2. That will be out of range, right? If we pass only 2 variables.
If you pass only 2, then this, yes, that will fail.
Yeah.
Because there is no second argument, right? Second position value for the tuple, right? Only 0 and 1 are there. So there are no 3 elements. So you have to take care of all those. Right? But I just want, my point was, individually also you can use the elements of this tuple, but we have to be careful here. Right? Better is you can run a for loop and maybe do something. It depends on the requirement. Right? So this is used when you have to pass n number of arguments, right? A variable length. Each time you're not sure how much the argument or the values will be passed by the user. You want to capture that and do something with that. Then you can use star args. Okay. Clear? And it's a tuple, so now you know how to use tuple, so that should be fine, right? Clear?
Args, that means args is the type tuple.
Arg is a variable.
Yeah, of that
Like,
type tuple.
and it will be a tuple. Args or var or whatever. Right? It will be a tuple. And these, whatever the values we pass, becomes the element of the this variable args or var. Right? Clear?
Yes.
Manish, if you do a help of that function,
you
you
will get the same thing what is written.
Okay.
Right? If you don't have any doc string, it will give you the function definition. That's all. Head, the signature. This is called a signature. If you write any documentation here, that also will come here. So if you want to explain, you explain it here, right? Write a doc string with 3 quotes, multi-line comment, and you give the comments, right?
Yes.
No questions, anyone?
Is there any reason why you're using print here as long as you're using the star argument?
Sorry.
Instead of return, you're using print for all the star.
There is no reason.
Okay.
We can return as well. No problem. I use return here.
Okay.
There's no particular reason. I just for sake of it. That's all. There's no restriction to use print and return. Depends on how you want. Okay. So one thing to note here is this is also. Can we say this is a variable length of positional argument? Can we say variable length of positional argument because in what position we pass, in what order we pass, that element becomes in that same order it becomes the element of the tuple?
Yes.
So can we say this is a variable length of positional argument?
Not variable length.
Yes.
Yes.
Right? There's something called K star KW args. This is quarks variable length keyword argument. What does it mean? We define a function func2, do star KW args colon. Let's say I do pass here, okay? I don't write anything again. Now, keyword variable length of keyword argument. What are keyword arguments? What are keyword arguments?
Arguments we give inside when calling the function.
While calling the function, we give some values.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yes.
It works. But how it is going to get assigned here? What is the use of this?
Is it same?
Why is keyword arguments used? Keyword arguments are used to assign the values to a specific variable, like argument, right? But here there is no argument as such, right? 10, this x, y, and z are not the arguments of the function, isn't it? But still we are passing. For passing we are using, and it is working, right? It did not give any error. So what is happening here is, what is happening here?
Dictionary?
Yes. It creates a dictionary.
Can you pass these argument in the args and then we get error? Just want to see that error.
1 second, let me complete this. So if you pass like this and you accept this as a variable length keyword argument as star star whatever, again this kw args is just a convention. Here again the real hero is double star. Double star will allow you to pass multiple keyword arguments, variable length keyword arguments in while calling the function. You can have this as anything, star star var, star star name, whatever. Okay. And as you pass like this, what is the use of this? X, Y, and Z. It becomes, X becomes the key.
Okay.
This becomes the value. Y becomes the key. 20 becomes the value. Z becomes the key. 1.5 becomes the value. And it's a dictionary. Now, in this example, right? In this example, func2. Can I do this? Or let's me define func3. Okay. Student of name. Sorry, student 1.
After age,
Sorry.
close. After age, we need to close.
Oh yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So this I can now simply call this func3. Doesn't matter, whatever. Right. So it becomes a dictionary now. If you print student 1, you will see X, Y, and var as well with corresponding values 0.5, 7.7, and 100. Okay. This is used to pass variable length of keyword argument. If you want to pass any values to a particular, you want to make a dictionary and you want to pass any value with a specific key so that you can use that key inside the function, then you use this kind of a variable length keyword argument star KWRs. Clear? Yeah, you had a question, I think, Naresh, right?
Yes, but yeah. Apply the same
You
thing
want
to
error.
args and get there.
Sorry?
Just pass these variable argument in the args star args and get the error. Do we get
Why you want to pass it star args or star KWRs?
No, star args only.
Obviously, you'll get an error. It will not accept like this unexpected keyword argument name because it is just for positional arguments, not for keyword arguments. Double star is for keyword arguments.
Yes.
This will only accept positional arguments, non-keyword arguments.
Yes.
Here.
Manish, are keyword arguments and default arguments same?
No. Keyword arguments are arguments when we pass them, right, with the argument name. They can be or cannot be default arguments. Default arguments are when we define a function, then we give some default value to that variable. Those are default arguments, right? But keyword arguments are the arguments while passing. Right? When we use the argument name while passing, those are keyword arguments.
In keyword arguments accept the same name we need to use, right? That is also one difference. In positional,
in keyword arguments, whatever the keyword argument is written in the definition that you have to use. In positional, you don't use any, right? And variable length keyword arguments, in the definition, there is no specific argument. You just use star and any variable name. And while passing, you want to use whatever you want as the argument name. It will accept. That becomes the key. Right? Here we have not used name in the argument list, right? Any questions here?
Can we set keywords as default somehow? No, right?
With the variable length, no.
Yeah.
When it's a variable length, you can't do that.
Sir, when we call function, we pass argument, and when we define function, we write some argument. So
right.
Both means in both the case we call them arguments, or we just
differentiate. It is no hard rule, but how I differentiate it, these are called arguments. When we pass, those are called parameters.
Okay.
If you want to really, strictly follow that, then these are called parameters. These are called arguments.
Okay.
Whatever we define in the function, these are arguments, and these are parameters to that argument. But these are interchangeably used widely, so that's okay. But this is the technical difference or strict difference. Yeah. Any other questions here? Yeah, I was expecting that. Let's take a break. 9:07, 9:12. We'll be back, okay? And if you have any questions, we'll take that. Back. Audible?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So next thing that we'll see is Yeah. Lambda function. Any idea? Anyone? What is this?
Just function comprehension means like that.
Function comprehension. Okay. Okay. What do you mean by function comprehension?
Just like list comprehension, we can do now. We can
Single
write
line
many
function.
yeah. Just yeah.
All right, that's right. This is also called anonymous function. Or function without a name. There's another way of writing a function. Okay, without def keyword, def we write, right? Without that, if you want to write a function, this is the way we do. Okay, and this is function without a name. We don't write a function name for this. Okay, and instead of def, we use lambda. Let's see the syntax of this. So we write lambda and the arguments, argument 1, comma, argument 2, comma, and whatever, then colon, then expression. Okay, this is the syntax. There is no return statement, no def keyword, but lambda keyword. It's a single line function. No function name and no return statement. Okay, so no return statement, but it doesn't mean that this lambda function will not return anything. Okay, it's just also function, same like a function. The way we define is little different. That's all. What is returned? This expression after evaluation is returned explicitly. Sorry, implicitly. So the expression after getting evaluated gets returned. Okay. And when it gets returned, we can assign it to a variable. Yes or no?
Yes.
So an example of lambda function is before that. So let's take a function called cube. Takes a number num and returns num to the power of 3. Right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So when we do cube of 3, we get 3 to the power 3, 27. Cube of 5, 5 to the power of 3, which is 125. Right? This is normally normal function we write. Lambda function, how do we write? Lambda takes n or num, whatever, colon, and the expression. And we assign it to a variable. If you don't assign, we simply run this. This is a function with this. Takes a single variable. It's a lambda function, which takes n as a variable. Okay. So to call this function, either we do this. What happened here? Oh. All right. So 4 cube is 64. Right? But we have to call this function again and again. We have to write the function again and again. No reusability. Yes or no?
Yes.
So for making it reusable, what we can do is assign it to a variable. Now this variable C behaves like a function. Okay. Clear? These Lambda functions are used in places where you don't have to, write a function and you reuse it separately again and again. But these are used when you want to write a function and you want to use only once. Right? So this can be handy. Something like this, directly write and use it. So I'll show you places where we need to write a function which can be only used once. Okay, I'll show you the use cases of this. Right? But is this making sense? The syntax and how it is working?
Yes.
Any questions on this?
We never assigned the 2 stars.
Your voice is breaking, Suniti.
Any keyword, as in how does it know that am I audible, sir?
You are audible now.
Hello, am I audible, sir? I was asking, we never assigned the 2 stars to Q, so how does this function know that 2 star and 3 is Q?
2 star means exponential operator, right?
Huh?
This is the exponential operator, right? So if you do 8 to the power of 3, this is 8 to the power of 3, right?
Hanji.
So I'm not getting a question. So how does what understand? This is n to the power. So n is this. When we pass 4, this 4 gets assigned to this guy n. This is the argument. Okay.
Right, sir.
And then this 4 goes to n, and 4 to the power of 3 is 64. And this is the expression that we have written. And I said we don't have to write return. Whatever in the expression is written, after evaluation, it gets returned.
Right. I got confused actually. The exponent.
Yeah, exponential operator is the cube I mean, not the cube operator. It does n to the power of whatever you write, m.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, sir. As we said, the expression after getting evaluated gets returned. But what if we want to calculate something but don't want to return? Then
it will return anyway.
Is there any method to avoid that?
You return it, you don't accept it in a variable. Here I'm not putting it into a variable, just leave it.
Okay, we can do that.
It returns, you don't accept it, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to accept it, let's say result equal to C of 10, right? So then you want result and print result and all those things you do. But if you don't want this, don't put it in a variable, just do this, that's all.
Okay.
See, I told you the last. 1 second. See, now if I use like this, it will not getting printed, right? Why? Because only last line in the cell gets printed in Jupyter Notebook.
Yes.
Right now, you write a program like this. You discard the value which it gets returned. You don't store it, don't use it, but it will return. This will be returned anyway, whatever you do.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, there was another question. Yeah, go ahead.
Manish, yeah, this Lambda function is basically handy if we have single line evaluation or something.
Yes.
But if we have some complex or multi-line expression,
then no.
Then we need to use conventional looping.
Yes.
And all.
That's right.
Is it only for one argument type function?
No. I said in definition, right? It can have multiple arguments. Now this also you can do, right? See, can we return multiple values?
Yes.
Yes. But what happens here is this will take effect as this will be treated as one expression. This will be treated as one. So for that, you need to make it like this. So it gets evaluated together and it gets returned together. Okay. Making sense? What did I say?
No, please explain again before.
If you don't have this,
yeah.
If you don't have this, this is one single expression, which is a lambda function. This will be another. So it will be an error.
Okay. Yes.
So you want to return multiple arguments, you do this. So multiple values, you do this. Now it becomes a part of lambda function. Here it was not a part of lambda function.
Yes. Okay.
Now it will work. X of, we need two arguments, n1 and n2, and it returns two values, plus and minus, right?
Yes.
It can have 0 arguments as well. How?
We don't write anything after colon.
Correct. Before colon.
Okay.
Returns hello. This evaluates to hello only. So it returns hello. Prints hello.
Yes.
0 argument. There is no argument before colon. 0 or more arguments. So like normal conventional function, it also takes 0 or more arguments. You can have 3, 4, 5, whatever argument numbers you can have. Okay. And in a single line, whatever you want to write, you can write it here.
Can we use args and quarks here?
Should be able to. Right?
Yes.
Anyone questions with this?
What is the use of making a different like lambda function?
I'll
I
come to
could
that.
not get it.
The difference is it's another way of writing it. I think your question is more into why do we need this, right?
Yes.
Okay. So one is if you want to write a single line function, you can use this. Okay. It saves line. Another is there are few places or few functions that take argument as a function. So in that case, instead of writing the whole function together and then using it, you can use the lambda functions to define a function. Okay, it's very handy. I'll give you an example.
It's only for Python or all other languages?
What language are we learning?
Java, like that. Is Lambda is for only Python? Or?
Python. So if we are learning Python, it is for Python.
Okay,
I don't think it's
it's Lambda
not.
is special for
Yes, it is.
Python.
Yes. Obviously, right?
Yes. Okay.
Any more questions to this? We'll see if you, I mean, the use of this lambda now. Before that, any questions how it works? All right. Filter function is a function. Okay, it's a predefined function or a built-in function. Okay, it filters the elements of an iterable object depending on the result of a function. I'll repeat. The filter function filters the elements of an iterable object depending on the result of a function. And before this, it takes a function and an iterable object as an argument, as arguments. filter function takes two arguments. One is a function, so you have to write the function name, and second is the iterable object. Iterable object means list, tuple, dictionary, string, and all those things, right? So the first argument is a function, and second argument is an iterable object. What it does is output is it filters the elements of this iterable object depending on the function result. Okay, does that make sense? No. Okay, it will make sense in a while. So let's say we have a list called list 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the elements of this, and we have a function. Let's define a function is even, takes a value num. Okay, and if num %2 equal to 0, returns true, and returns if it's not equal to 0, it returns false. Okay, so we have an iterable object, we have a function, we pass it to filter function and see what the result is. Filter takes a function name, so we give the function name. Second, we give a is even function here. Okay, and we is even, sorry, my bad.
List 1.
List 1 we give. Okay, so when we run this, we don't get any output. We get a something called a filter object. Okay, if you assign it to a variable, let's say called fill1, try to print it. It's actually a filter object, and this is the location where this object is. Okay, we don't get the elements, we don't get the result. To get the result, and I'll tell you, this is a iterable object by itself. Okay, so if any iterable object which is not showing any result, how can we see the values which are there in that object?
For loop.
For loop. That's one way. For I in fill1, print I. What is the result? Two and 4. Okay, so what was the input? The input was the function and the list as an iterable object. What did I say in the definition? It filters the element of the iterable object depending on the result of the function. So it had filtered two numbers from here, right? 2 and 4. Can you see that?
Yes.
How? What? Depending on the output of this function or result of this function. What this function is doing? This function is return. Yeah, it is checking the divisibility of the number with 2. And if it is divisible, it's returning true. Yes or no? Yes. And if you see here, whenever it is returning true, that element is there in the filter object.
Yes.
And hence hence the even numbers are there in the filter object 2 and 4. Making sense?
Yes.
Yes. So,
sir,
I'm not done. Yeah, tell me.
That filter that is even function, right? So it will be called multiple times.
Yes, that's what I'm going to. That's right. So what happens here is I'll go to how it works. Okay, the output is clear. Whenever this function returns true, for that element is there in the filter object, right? So how it works is, how many elements are there in this iterable object? Those many times this is even function will be called. Who will call? This filter function will take care of that. Okay. How many elements are there in this list?
5.
5. So this even function will be called 5 times. each of the values or elements of this list or the iterable object will be passed as the argument of this function. So first time, what is the value? 1, right? For 1, this filter function will call, okay, let me write here down. So for 1, this filter function will call this is even with 1. What is the output we get if this function is getting called with 1?
False.
False. For 2, it is getting called. What is the output?
True.
For 3, output is false. 4, output is true. 5, output is false. And whenever the output is true, that corresponding element will be become the element of the filter function, sorry, filter object. If it is false, it will discard that.
Suppose the function is not returning any Boolean value, then what will happen? Suppose number or maybe.
Yeah, it's returning a number, right? If it's returning any number, what's the Boolean equivalent of that number? True if it is non-zero. If it is 0, it is false. It will be evaluated like that.
Okay.
Any string, it's a true. Empty string is a false.
Okay.
Did we check that type of fill 1?
Type of fill 1 is a filter.
Okay.
That's why I'm telling filter object from that time, right? Filter object. Right? So what it does is, I'll go again. How many number of elements are there? Those many number of times this function will be called. Each time the element of this iterable object will be given to this function. And depends on what this function is returning. If this function is returning true, that element which was passed will become the element of the filter object. And if this function returns false for that element of this iterable object, that element of this iterable object is discarded and not be part of the filter object. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Can we typecast that filter object to list?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
We can typecast it to tuple as well. Okay. Okay. Clear. So now depends on what we are getting these values. It's solely dependent on this function, right? If I change the function, let's say if num %3, then only 3 will be the output for this list, isn't it?
Yes.
So it all depends on this function that we write what will be the element of the filter object. If we do not equal to, then it will give odd numbers. Because for odd numbers, it is giving true. Right? One thing to note here is who decides how many. So who decides each element will go to is the even function one by one? Who decides that?
Filter.
Filter function. If we write a function with 2 arguments, what will happen?
To filter function. Sorry, to filter object.
No.
Error.
Let's do that. It's simple as that. And we write, let's use list so that we don't need to use for. And in the list, we pass something like this. Whatever we pass, doesn't matter. Missing one required positional argument and 2. So what does it mean? What is the error? When do we get this error?
Less number of parameters are passed.
When less number of parameters are passed. Are we passing any parameter to fun1? Are
Yes,
we passing?
No.
Are we passing?
Oh, we are not. Filter.
We are not. Filter function is. So it's internal to filter. So it becomes mandatory to have only one argument here.
Or can we default?
We have to do another list over in filter.
No.
If N2 is having default value, then it will work.
No. Yeah. Yes. That you're right. That will work. Filter expected 2 arguments, got 3. Filter will only take 2 arguments. This is extra. So filter only takes one function and one iterable object, and the function also should take only one argument because each time filter function sends one element. Clear? So you can't write like this. You can't use a function with a 2 non-default arguments. If you have a default argument here, then fine. Clear? Yes, no?
Yes.
Because the behavior of filter function is each element of this list will be passed one at a time to the function. Clear? Okay. Now, going back, can we write this function as a Lambda function? Is it possible?
Yes.
How?
Ternary operator.
Ternary operator. True. If n percentage 2 equal to 0, else false. You can do this.
Yes.
Clear? For only even numbers, it will be returning true, and hence these will be part of those even numbers will be part of the filter object, and then we are converting into a list. We get a list. Now I was saying the usage of filter, sorry, lambda. Here we can directly give this. No need to define separately. Making sense?
Yes.
So this function is used only once, right? So lambda function can be used like this when we want to use a lambda function, any function that we use once. We can directly write a lambda function and put it here in the filter function's first argument. Right? No need to use def and all. So this is a particular use case of lambda function, which can be used as an argument of a filter function. Making sense?
Yes.
Any questions here? What will the output?
Increment each element.
Sorry?
Increment each element in the list and return.
What does it return? What does filter function return? Does it return the output of the function or returns the element of the iterable object? Here, it returns true and false. Does the elements here are true or false? It returning the element for which the function returns true. Yes or no?
Okay. Yeah.
Now tell me what it will return.
-1 to 0.
No.
Sorry, -1 to -1, 10.
No,
0
first
will
it-
be excluded.
No.
First it will be false, then the remaining will be.
Do it one by one, slowly, one by one. What is the first element that will be passed to the lambda function?
-1.
-1. -1 is passed. And what we are doing? -1 plus 1. What is the result?
False.
0.
Zero.
Which is
False.
false. When the output is false, will it be there or will it be discarded?
Discarded.
Okay.
Not part of filter object.
Okay.
For 2, it is 2 plus 1, which is 3, which will be true.
Yes.
So it will be kept.
Yes.
Because the value is true, the element will be kept, not the result. Okay, mind it. For 0, the result is 1, which is true. It will be kept. Again, for -1, it is false, discarded. For 10, it is 11. 11 is true, so it will be kept. So the output will be
2, 0,
2, 0, and 10. Filter function will keep the elements of the iterable object, not the result. Clear? If it kept the result, it should have been true, right? It takes an input, a function, another input is the iterable object. It filters out or filters in, however you want. It filters in or keeps the object, keep the elements of this iterable object inside itself, elements as its elements, only when this function returns true for that element. Clear?
Yes.
Awesome. Then we have something called map. Map function. Map also takes 2 arguments, function and iterable object. Let's see how it works. Now, let's take this only. Okay. And instead of filter, I use map. Seeing the output, tell me what is happening. So we know this function. This function gives true if the value is even, and if it is odd, it gives false, right? And filter function, it keeps the values or the element for which it returns true. See the map function, what it returns. Okay, before this, I'll remove this typecast to see what it is. M1 equal to this, print M1. What it is? Map object. Data type as map. Okay. Now I do a list of M1. I can do that. What is getting returned in the output?
True, true, false, 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 true, false.
What are these?
It maps every element.
Sorry?
It maps every element which is
Boolean value of every element.
Not necessary. No, it's not. Again, here what is happening is this function is being called for each of these elements. Okay. So the first time function is called with 10. If you pass
Actually,
10,
it is returning lambda value only.
It is returning
the
the return value of the function. Yes, exactly. So for 10, what is the value?
True.
True. For 20, what is the value?
True.
True. For 31, what is the value?
False.
False. 55. False. Are these not getting returned? The same sequence? Are these not getting returned in the same sequence?
Yes.
Yes.
So map function basically takes input each element from the iterable object, gives as an argument of the function, and in the map object, it will keep the return value of the function for that element. So this is the first element. The first element of the map function will be the return value when you pass the first element. It does some kind of mapping. For 10, it is true. For 20, it is false in the same sequence. For 31, it is false. For 55, it is false. For 67, it is false. For -10, it is true. For 7, it is false. Clear? What will be the output?
Square of all elements.
Square of all elements in a list, because we are converting it to a list.
Yeah.
1 will be passed to this lambda function. It will return 1. It will get stored. Then 2 will be passed 4. 3 will be passed 9. 4 will be passed 16. 5 will be passed 24. 5, and we are converting into a list. Yes or no? Map function returns the corresponding value for that element. When that element gets passed to that function, what value gets returned is the element of the map function. Is that clear?
Sir, the function, basic function we define with one argument, can't we give list as a parameter while
We
calling?
can.
Then
We
we do
can.
the same operation with that also.
We can, but that will be a list. When you pass a list to an argument A, that A is not that individual, right? It will be a list. Then you use A as a list. That can be done, no problem.
Yes, then we will apply some for loop like that.
Yeah, I mean, do whatever you want. Depends on the
Yes.
requirement.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Is this clear? Map function.
Yes.
What will be the output?
Uppercase.
Capital letters, bat.
List of uppercase strings.
When we pass bat to this function, it becomes uppercase, gets returned, and that becomes the element of the map function. We are converting it to a list. Clear?
Yes.
Now, unlike filter function, map can take multiple iterable objects. Okay. When it takes multiple iterable objects, for example, let's say, let's take this same again. Okay. When it takes two iterable objects, so it passes the first element of the first iterable object along with the first element of the second iterable object to the function. So in this case, how many arguments the function should have?
Two.
Two. Yes.
Nine plus one, 4 plus 2, 1 plus 3, 0 plus 4, 8 plus 5. Are we getting the result? So 1 gets passed to x for the first time, right? And 9 gets passed to y. X plus y is 10. 10 is the result which gets stored in the map function, map object. Again, the second element, third element, fourth element, fifth element. Any questions?
Sir, what will happen if we just use the function lambda instead of map in this particular example?
Nothing will happen. That's wrong. Lambda function with what? Like this?
Anjali sir, because in the previous example, we we gave the function of that even number.
Hmm.
But isme we are not assigning any value like that.
That's okay. So how many arguments my function takes?
Two.
Two. How does it take? We have to pass, right?
Yes.
In brackets.
Right.
So who is doing that task for me? Map function, right?
Yes.
So I didn't get a question. So how exactly without map function you want to use lambda?
No, we used lambda when we first started discussing about lambda. We
So,
you gave the example of the
okay.
even number when the element was getting passed. So in the same way, if we just use lambda, how do we use lambda in this particular example? Because
why will you use just lambda? Why will we use just lambda in this example? I'm not getting that question. Where did we use lambda with even odd without? I mean, I don't get it. So lambda function is just a normal function. This is a lambda function.
Yes.
How many parameters does it take? Arguments does it take?
Two.
And we assign it to a variable. How do we call it? L1 with two numbers. It adds the numbers, returns.
Yes.
Okay. Even if it's an even number function, this guy, if we write like L2 equal to this, how do we call L2? L2 with how many values do we call? One only, right? It takes one argument, right?
Yes, yes, one argument only for this to run.
How this map is working is each time this lambda function we have written x and y. Let's say this is pointing to L3. Okay.
Okay.
Let's assume that this is L3. Okay. Now L3 is being called by this map function one by one for the elements of these iterable objects. So L3 with 1,9 is called for the first time.
Okay.
What is the result?
10.
10. Again, next time L3 with 2 and 4 will be called. 2 and 4, next element. Result is 6. Again, L3 with 3 and 1 is getting called, which is 4. Are you seeing the result in the output?
Yes, yes, that is clear.
I'm not getting without map function. How you want to use this? I'm not getting that. I'm not getting your question. Can
Maybe
you
I'm
please
confusing map and lambda. I'll have to go through this class again.
see? Lambda function is individual of any map or filter. Map function takes an argument as a function. Map function takes two arguments. One argument is the function itself.
Understood. Understood. Yes, I understood now.
Very
So
good.
the lambda function, yes, that's a function, and then we are putting the arguments. Samajh aa gaya.
So this lambda is same as def, right? We define a function using def. We can use lambda to define a single line function. That's all.
Yes.
Okay.
Understood.
Then
Understood.
now in map and filter we use functions as arguments.
Right.
There
right,
we can
right,
use
right.
lambda.
Right. 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 Understood.
Yeah. All right.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Any more questions here with map and filter?
Sir, I'm just trying that map, but I get one error. List object is not callable.
Can you paste the code in the chat?
Yeah, sure.
Manish, line number 169. Yeah, here in the second line, the function would have only one non-default argument. So how it will run if you have like
it will
two
fail.
Default arguments and one non-default arguments? How it flow? Like more than one default argument.
If it has more than one default argument, then also default value will take. See, filter will make sure it pass one argument.
Okay.
And this function should have one argument non-default only. The other two will be default. That's okay. That takes the default value. That will take the default value. Filter will make sure it calls every time this function with only one argument.
So one argument from non-default values.
First argument only, it will call with positional argument. It will pass the value with positional argument. When there are functions, let's say this is f, it takes three argument a, b equal to 10, c equal to 20. Okay.
Yes.
How will you call? You call 10. This will be called like this. 10 will always go to a, right?
Yeah.
So map filter function will make sure it calls the function with only one argument, and that one argument goes to the first argument because positional argument.
Yeah. Next again, it will go to the b.
No. It'll always go to a.
In the sense it will call b, right? In this filter.
No,
next.
it will not. When you call this function, let's say what was the value here?
So
it is 1.
Yeah.
Right? And they will take this list. So
Yes.
f is getting called with 1. Where will one will go?
We'll go to A.
A. Now, manually, if you want to call the function again with 2, how will you call? F of 2?
Yeah.
Where 2 will go? In A only, right?
Yes.
So this function is getting called 5 times. Each time one value is getting given to the argument.
So it will work only with the defined argument.
That's what I'm saying. These two will be default value it will take.
Okay. Yeah, understood.
Got it, right?
Yeah.
Filter function will always pass only one argument at a time.
Yes.
Like this, how we manually call with using one argument, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this. We don't have control on this. Filter function will always call using one argument.
Yes.
And sir, the function which we are calling in filter function, right? That function should filter and map for both. The calling function should have a return.
No. Sorry, calling function should have
a return, right? It should return something. Otherwise, it will not work.
No. What is none? None is a value, right? In map function, it will for all of them it is none. If there is no return, it will work. Technically, it will work, but all the values will be none, 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 none. And for filter, it will be empty list, right? Or empty filter object with empty. Why? Because none is false.
Okay. Okay.
So for every element, it becomes false. So logically, yes, it should have return.
Okay. Okay.
It's not a syntax issue or it's not a runtime error. There is no error. Python, there is no Python error, but this is a logical error.
Logical error, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if we don't have a return value, return type, function always returns something, which is none. None in filter function can be considered as a false value, and none is as a value. With map function, it will all return none, 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 none. Because in map function, it takes the values.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why if you use Lambda function, it makes sure it returns implicitly. Lambda function, we don't need to write return, right? Whatever is here, it will return anyway.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So I got your question, Ravindra. Works for me. What is the error? Can you please place that? Again, you have used any Python keyword as a variable. I am 100% sure. Not again. Who was it? Was you yesterday? Also, you used min equal to something. Who was that? Who used min equal to something? Okay, leave that. But did you get what I'm trying to say, Ravindra? Why it is failing?
I did it.
Karthik.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you give the error, I'll tell you which variable you have used. Have you used list equal to something? Did you do list equal to some value?
Yeah, just wait. I have to check that once.
Yeah. That 100% that is the issue. Okay, that happens initially. Don't worry.
Yeah, I will check.
Yeah, but make sure that you don't do it. Okay.
Okay, sure.
It's not only for you; it's for everyone, including me, because I also do that. But you have to remember. Okay. Any more questions? We'll stop.
Hello, sir. I have one question. In line number 181, here we assign in a list 5 numbers and the second list 5 numbers. If we
Good
assign,
question.
yeah, if
Good
we
question.
assign
Lesser or more,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Whatever.
Yes.
Like this. Tell me what should be the output.
Maybe,
Possibilities.
error.
Error. First
Error.
possibility is error.
Yeah.
Second possibility is till whatever it can, it will work.
No, it won't. It shouldn't.
It shouldn't. Did you define map function? But yeah, I mean, by seeing the past, however we are seeing it, it should not work, right? Okay, let's see this.
Yes.
It works. So what map does is internally in map, what is written is if it's an unequal, inequal right? List or iterable object, elements are not equal. It will take the smaller one into account and do the operation. So let's say there are 3 in this. Okay, so output will be 3 only. 1 plus 9, 2 plus 4, 3 plus 1, and it sees there is no element here. It will just skip the last one. Here it's skipping the 5 here, right? For the from the first one. So which it doesn't matter first iterable object or second iterable object, whichever is the lesser, it will work till there. It will not be an error. So they have defined map function like that. Okay.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Cool. Problem. So let's do practice this. We are yet to finish few of the topics. I think there is something called a reduce function, and I think generators. We have generators. Yeah, iterators and generators, reduce function, and we have modules. Okay. So what we'll do tomorrow is we'll start with the doubts. Okay.